And this is Baruch Fleischman at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel. We're starting a new section by Rabbi Mimran, not forgetting for a second the concept that he's been teaching us about no mind, learning how to take control of our thoughts by looking at them. Now he comes to a deeper level. Well, maybe not so much deeper, but I think so. This is understanding the spiritual world. This is lesson number 3, inner connectedness. There is something called a connection between all. This he wants to start as part 1 is going to talk about quantum mechanics, modern physics. So the story starts like this. Your perception of the world is a reflection of your state of consciousness. On a simple level, this can be understood by seeing everything red through a red pair of glasses. When you are in a bad mood, the entire world seems negative. Therefore, your consciousness, combined with your perspective, it creates the world that you inhabit. One of the greatest insights that has come out of modern physics is that of the unity between the observer and the observed. Let me say this again because I don't think I understand it. It is that he who is looking and that which he is looking at are one. The person conducting the experiment, the observing consciousness, cannot be separated from the observed phenomenon. Let's see what he means. And a different way of observing causes the observed phenomenon to behave differently. So therefore, if you look at it with red glasses versus blue glasses, it would have a difference in what you think is the phenomenon. If you believe on a deep level in separation and the struggle for survival, then you will see that belief reflected all around you, I think he means that separation, that we're not together, we're not connected, and that we have to do everything we can to keep ourselves alive. Then you will see that belief reflected all around you, so that's the coloring you see, and your perceptions will be governed by fear. You'll inhabit a world of struggle, fighting, killing, and destruction. Because that's the colored glasses that you're wearing. Nothing is what it seems to be. The world that you create and see through the egoic mind, the mind of, he calls it the emotional ego, may seem a very imperfect place, but it is, however, your consciousness. Let me read it again. It is how your consciousness interprets and interacts with the molecular structure of the universe. This is a hard idea. What you're actually seeing is that your consciousness, is interacting with everything that's around you. This energy is the raw material of the so-called physical reality. Physicists have proven that there is no true solidity in this world, since all is made up of a molecular dance of particles, giving the appearance that it is solid matter. And I think he means that our coloring, the way that we see it as solid, as we're a part of that whole vibration. Since through a powerful microscope, 1,000,000 times the power of the eye, this will reveal this fact to all non-believers. So he says an infinite number of completely different interpretations and completely different worlds is possible, and in fact exists. You just see this from one nation to the next, or one person for the next, or between a wife and a husband and a wife. The perspectives are enormous, all depending on the perceiving consciousness. Yet all worlds are ultimately one. Every being is a focal point of consciousness. Every such focal point creates its own perceived world, although all those worlds are interconnected. And that's the point. Is the point that although in the same time that we're different, that we have different perceptions, but nonetheless, panimi to all of this, he's saying that they're all connected, interconnected. Simply put, we are all individual worlds. As stated in the Mishnah Sanhedrin, he says saving one life is like saving an entire world. Nevertheless, we are all interdependent, but we're actually connected one to another, as stated by Chazal in Shavuos 39a. He says, Kol Yisrael arevim zel lezel. He says all the people of Israel, all interconnected one to the other. There is a human world, an animal world, a plant world, and so on. They are countless beings whose generic makeup is so completely different from yours that you are probably unaware of their existence as they are of yours. They just don't know that someone like yourself could exist. On the other hand, highly conscious beings can sense their connectedness with the source of all things within. Now he says source and all things within. So in other words, he means there's panemius. So let me move this up just a little bit so I can get a little better view. So our collective human world is largely created through the level of consciousness we call mind. Now in German they call it a Weltanschauung, that we have a perspective on the world. Even within the collective human world there are vast differences, many different subworlds, depending on the perceivers or creators of the respective worlds. Since all worlds are interconnected, when collective human consciousness becomes transformed, since all the worlds are connected, now he says when collective human consciousness becomes transformed, what does he mean by transformed? He says that nature and the animal kingdom will reflect the transformation because actually they're all connected. Hence the statement by the prophet Isaiah that in the coming age the wolf and the lamb will feed together as they become more and more connected, and the lion will eat straw like the ox, and dust will be the serpent's food. They will neither harm nor destroy on my entire holy mountain, says Hashem. So this means that the blending, this point to a completely different order of reality, which blends. And this is one of the great things that we talk about, but Rabbi Mimran is talking about the blendings of opposites, that really, there is no opposites. When we speak of a gap in your mental stream, a state of no mind, we stop thinking and watching what we are doing instead. We are not describing any kind of a trance-like state. This is not putting you into a trance, not at all. In separating ourselves from our thoughts, and simply listening to them, there is no loss of consciousness whatsoever. In fact, the very opposite is true. If the cost of peace would be a lower of your consciousness, you take a drug, take a few drinks, and the cost of stillness were a lack of vitality because you become drugged and alertness and you're not there anymore, then peace and stillness would not be worth having. This ideal state of interconnectedness, well, when you are able to see and look that we are aiming for, you are actually much more alert, more awake than you could ever be in that other, more common state of identifying with your emotional mind. He says your mind, when you are connected with yourself, you are fully present. When you are connected and you are watching what's going on in your mind, that's the you. It has been proven by physicists that everything in the universe has a particular vibration. Now, this is one of the most interesting things to me. Everything vibrates at its own specific frequency. Now, 200 years ago, they really didn't know anything about this. So Rabbi Mimran says, well, now look at all the waves that we have going on, the radio waves, the sound waves, the laser beams, all these different kinds of things which are waves. So we can compare this to radio waves. Choosing a station will depend on the frequency of that particular wave you are tuning into. Vibration frequencies are similar. So in other words, this kinds of different kinds, they have this in common. Scientists have shown through many laboratory tests that the unseen world, what does he mean by that? The unseen world, or the subatomic world, the really deep, smallest particles of reality, the world of quantum mechanics, can raise or lower one's vibratory frequency simply by one's thoughts. Now, let me read this again. It seems like it's just such a strong idea telling us something about what's going on in our sides of our brains. Since he's saying that since we're all connected and you're upset, you're going around and around and around, it's affecting everything around you. And the closer you are to that thought, the closer the person or another person is to it, the more they will be affected. Scientists have shown that through many laboratory tests, the unseen world or the subatomic world of quantum mechanics can raise or lower one's vibratory frequency simply by one's thoughts. The faster the vibration, the more unseen or spiritual a person or object becomes. It's the opposite of getting drunk. That your consciousness raised as a result of not using your mind, of watching your mind instead. Moreover, raising one's frequency raises the vibrational frequency of the surrounding energy. It also affects what's around you. That gives life to one's physical body, so it is certainly worthwhile to think, feel, and act in ways that will raise one's frequency. One way to significantly raise your vibrational frequency is to reach more deeply into the realm of no mind. With that, you can achieve a state of pure consciousness, devoid of any extraneous trappings. In that state, you feel your own presence with such intensity and such joy that all thinking, all emotions, even your physical body, in fact, the entire external world, become relatively insignificant in comparison to what you are experiencing. Yet, this is not a selfish state. On the contrary, it is altogether selfless, for it enables you to transcend yourself, or at least what you used to think of as yourself, because we always relate to our mind, to our emotional minds. The connectedness, the consciousness, the presence that you feel is essentially you. That's what we want to get to. While at the same time it is inconceivably greater than you. Just as no sound can exist without silence, right? The sound of silence. Nothing can exist without no thing. Read it again. Just as sound can exist, just as no sound can exist without silence. So without silence, you wouldn't know there was sound. Nothing can exist without nothing. So nothing can exist if there's not a nothing. Without the empty space that enables it to be. Every physical object our body has come out of nothing. It is surrounded by nothing, and it will eventually return to nothing. Even inside every physical body, let's look at ourselves physically in a microscope. There is far more nothing than something. Physicists tell us that the solidity of matter is an illusion. Even seemingly solid matter, including your physical body, is nearly 100% empty space if you look at it closely enough. So vast are the distance between the atoms compared to their size. What is more, even inside of every atom. So the atoms are tremendously separated, but even when you get inside of the atoms, there's mostly empty space. What is left is more like a vibrational frequency than particles of solid matter. This is what he's saying, that underneath the solid matter, that we look at ourselves all the time, are vibrations. This has been known for thousands of years. As King Solomon said, all is but illusion. Rabbi Mimran ends up this little piece. He says, Kol Yisrael, Aravim Zalazah. All the people of Israel are all interconnected one to the other. This is Baruch Fleischman on the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, on the American Kabbalah Network. And also saying this year for those who are listening to the Vegas with Rabbi Mimran. This is Baruch Fleischman.